What happened to American watchmaking? We used to have Hamilton, Bulova, Timex. Now none of these brands even make their watches in America, and half of them aren't even American companies anymore. So I guess it's up to the micro brands to fix that, and today we're going to check out a almost American-made watch from Vaer. And if you don't care at all about American-made, this is a 36mm field watch that has 100 meters of water resistance, screw-down crown, great lume, sapphire crystal, and a pretty reasonable price. So hopefully that's enough to at least make you stick around for this review. Hey guys, this is Dave. Welcome back to Just the Watch. This is a channel all about budget watch collecting. So if you like watches but don't have a lot of money, this is the channel for you. Now, as an American, the part of this watch that really resonates with me is the fact that this watch has an American-made movement inside of it, the fact that it's assembled in America, and just the philosophy behind it, where Vaer is trying to do as much watchmaking as they can inside America. And that's really cool because, again, you know, you basically cannot find an affordable American-made watch. The Made in America standard is very difficult to hit. It's a pretty high bar. You know, virtually every aspect of the watch has to be made in America. It's not like Swiss-made, where a substantial portion of it can be manufactured overseas and then assembled and cased in Switzerland. It's a lot harder to hit the mark in America. But setting that aside for an instant, for those of you guys who are not as interested, let's talk about the watch itself, because the watch itself is going to be really appealing, I think, to a lot of people. This is a really well-built 36mm field watch. It's a watch that has a lot of versatility, that can be dressed up and down, and in fact, Vaer kind of built that in mind with the different strap options that they allow you. They actually sent me 3 straps that they made, so I'll be taking a look at the watch on all 3 of these, and each one of the strap options that they give you really changes up the look and feel of the watch. And a good, well-built 36mm watch is hard to come by in this price range. The base model of this watch that comes with a silicone strap and a nylon strap comes in at around $209 for the American assembled model. 36mm has a lot going on for it. It's extremely comfortable on the wrist. It's much smaller than I typically wear on my 7.5-inch wrist. But I could see how even someone with a wrist my size could still get into this smaller size watch. It is a very classic looking size on the wrist, and it's extremely comfortable. This being a quartz watch, it's only 9mm thick, it's very light. It really kind of disappears when you're out and about, which for a watch built for kind of outdoors activities, that's a good thing. The other cool thing about this size is that it really is a truly unisex size. In fact, my wife has kind of already claimed this watch. So she's waiting for me to finish up this review so that she can take it and make it her own, which I'm pretty happy with, because basically every watch that I have in for review she absolutely hates. So this is one of the few watches that she likes. It's actually in a size that she can wear. She has a 5.5-inch wrist, so really tiny. And so for her it's kind of a little bit on the large side, but you know, right around the upper limit, I think, of what she could get away with. So whether you're a man or a woman, if you have small wrists or even larger wrists, I think this is a watch that offers a lot. So this watch was given to me by Vaer, which is why you saw the paid promotions flag at the beginning of this video. However, other than the watch itself, I did not receive any compensation, nor did Vaer have any input into the content of this review. Dimensions and specifications: 36mm case, 9mm thick, 20mm lug width, and 42mm lug to lug. So very compact watch. Has a sapphire crystal, has 100 meters of water resistance with a screw down crown, and pretty decent lume for a field watch. And Vaer offers this particular one in a number of different options depending on the straps that you choose. Vaer always includes 2 straps with every watch that they sell. So the base model of this one comes with a silicone strap and a nylon strap, and that package comes in at $209. If you want to upgrade and pay more, you can get a metal bracelet for $50 more, or a really nice Horween leather strap for $80 more. So it's a really premium strap, pretty pricey, but one of the best leather straps I've ever seen. Now, and again, if you don't care about Made in America, you can get one that's been manufactured overseas for $159. So basically, the added costs of the American movement and American assembly is about $50. So let's talk about that. What kind of value does that American assembly add? Is that worth your extra 50 bucks? I think for a lot of Americans it is going to be worth it. You know, there's something cool about having a product or a watch manufactured in your home country, a little bit of national pride there. And to me, for a country to be able to manufacture a wristwatch on their own is kind of a benchmark for where they're at when it comes to manufacturing and artistry and design. And I think it is kind of a point of national pride to be able to do that. For a lot of Americans, that also has economic incentives. It's about supporting American jobs and about getting independence from overseas manufacturing. For non-Americans, I think there's also a lot of interesting cultural aspects to this as well. As an American, for me, one of the coolest parts about the hobby is collecting watches from different regions of the world, getting Swiss watches or German watches or Japanese watches or French watches. And each country kind of has their own character, their own culture, and they infuse that into their watchmaking. And so that's one of the funnest parts, is being able to kind of get that international experience through watch collecting. And so I think even for non-Americans, being able to pick up a watch that is built in America is an appealing thing. The other interesting thing about this watch from that perspective is the AmeriQuartz movement inside of it. So this is a quartz watch, but it is a made in America quartz. So this is an actual American made movement. It's one of the few, if the only, affordable American-made movements that you can get your hands on. So to me, while I'm not always a huge quartz fan, the fact that this is an American-made movement, again, has some appeal to me. Now, other than the fact that it's made in America, this is just a standard quartz movement inside. It's battery-powered, it's super accurate, it's reliable, it ticks once per second, so you can kind of take it or leave it with that. So this watch does not quite meet all of the standards for made in America. There are some parts that had to be manufactured overseas, but Vaer is trying to get to that point where they can make an American-made watch, and they're getting pretty close. But is it actually a good watch? If the watch isn't good and it's made in America, that's not really a point of national pride or anything if we can only make bad watches. Fortunately, that's not the case here. I think this is a pretty high-quality watch, and let's talk a little bit about the design and the functions of it. In this case, you have a very classic field watch style design, and the case shape is this kind of nice, attractive, curved bowl-shaped case. Almost the entire case is brushed with a fine, almost satin-like finish. However, you're getting polished accents on the top of the lugs, and then around the top of the case, and then also around the side of the bezel. Well, the top of the bezel is circular brushed. The watch features a screw-down crown and case back, helping with that 100 meters of water resistance, and you're also getting a sapphire crystal protecting the top of it. The dial is a very vintage style dial, and all of this is painted on, again, really leaning into that sort of vintage look. In that vein, they've also gone with this kind of warm brown paint. It's been applied very thickly, giving just a little bit of texture to each of the markers. It has syringe-shaped hands, which are one of my favorite styles, and these just look really great. They're finely brushed and filled with lume on the inside. The second hand is a white second hand with a lumed arrowhead at the top of it. Now, on the unit that I have in here, there was a minor defect in the hour hand. If you look really closely, there's kind of a little pinhole in it where the lume didn't quite fill in the entire hour hand. It's barely visible with the naked eye. And yet somehow, with all of the kind of vintage cues going on here, I feel like it kind of just adds a little bit of character to the watch. But it is something to know, because I don't think it was intentional there. So overall, I think they really nailed the proportions of this watch in all areas except one, and that's with the lug width. Most 36mm watches are probably going to have 18mm lugs, so they have a little bit narrower strap. This one has 20mm lugs. So that makes the straps look a little bit wide in proportion to the case of the watch. And this was an intentional choice by Vaer, and I understand why they did it, and I almost kind of agree with them. 20mm straps are much easier to come by. I have a ton of 20mm straps and only a few 18mm. And Vaer, on their side, they wanted to make all of their straps compatible with all of their watches, so they chose to put 20mm lug widths on this one. So in order to do that, I think they sacrificed a little bit of design for convenience. And the straps are a big part of this watch. They kind of designed these watches with the intent that you're going to wear them in a lot of different situations and be able to swap out to different straps in order to accommodate that. So the base strap is a silicone rubber strap. It's a really nice, high quality strap. Reminds me a lot of Barton's silicone elite straps. Good hardware all around, very comfortable and soft, and going to give you great performance in the water if you are going to go surfing or fishing or anything like that. They also sent me their two kind of premium options. For an additional $50, you can get the metal bracelet, and for an additional $80, you can get the Horween leather strap. Now, I thought that the metal bracelet was going to be the one I was going to be the most attracted to. Like, the idea of a smaller watch on a metal bracelet really appeals to me, but this one I think had a few misses, both in the design and execution of the bracelet, and it turned out to be, one of the more disappointing aspects of the stuff that was sent in. The biggest problem is that with the quick release spring bar system that they have on this, I had a really hard time getting it to install onto the watch. In fact, there were a couple times where I thought it was installed properly, but it wasn't, which is very dangerous because that means that the watch could pop off your wrist. So once the spring bars felt like they popped in, I actually had to apply an additional bit of pressure to the spring pegs for the quick release to push it into the hole to make sure it was secure. And even after that, there still wasn't the greatest fit to the watch. I felt like there was a tiny bit of a gap between the edge of the curved spring bars and the case. And particularly for me on my 7.5-inch wrist, the fit of the bracelet was not the greatest. The reason being that they use a very sharply angled male end links on the bracelet. What you wind up having is that you have a sharp drop, and then the bracelet kind of then extends out along the top of my wrist. So those end links kind of push the watch up a little higher on my wrist than it needs to be. And so I found myself wearing it primarily on the Horween leather strap, which was the most expensive one that they sent over, but it is a really amazing leather strap. This is another thing that is made in America, so if you really want to lean into that, I think this is really the one you want to get. The Horween leather is incredibly soft and supple. It just has a great feel in the hand and on the wrist. Really amazing color, great stitching, just everything about it is really high quality. The Horween leather, it seems to almost instantly start to patina as you start to wear it, and the leather stretches and starts to crack and get a little bit of character and things on the finish. But as an $80 upgrade, it is a fairly expensive upgrade. Finally, let's talk about the lume on this watch, and the lume is okay. It's about average for a field watch, but kind of above average for one that uses this sort of brown tone lume. You're going with that vintage lume look, you're usually going to lose some after dark performance with that. It's just not as bright as traditional C3. Traditional C3 has kind of a green tinge. It doesn't look as good in the daylight, but it glows better after dark. In this case, you get the opposite effect, where this looks great in the daylight with those warm brown tones contrasting against the black dial, but you're not getting as great of after dark performance. Still, I put this in a lume test against some other watches in my collection, particularly some other field watches, along with the Seiko Samurai, which again is what I measure all of my other watches against. It was much less brighter than the Samurai, less than half as bright at the end of the hour lume test, but it outperformed the Hamilton Khaki King, and it outperformed the little Seiko 5 kind of field watch style watch that I had against it. So for this style of watch, I would say this is good lume. It is the kind of lume that you are going to notice it. If you walk from sunlight indoors, you will see a nice strong glow initially, and it gives you an acceptable level of after dark performance. So taking the JOMASHOP as a whole, I was really impressed with the watch. I think they're offering a great package and actually a really great value for everything that they throw into this. This is a really versatile watch that you can wear in a lot of different situations. It's really well built, and that 36mm size is something that you don't see really that often. And it's one that I probably won't see very often because, again, it's going over to my wife as soon as I finish editing this video. So if you're looking for a smaller cased watch that is well built and can handle the elements, I think this is one of the best ones to look at right now. And if you have an interest in a USA built watch, I think this is a great company to kind of get behind and start supporting now. And I'm really curious to see, how that aspect of the business continues to go for Vaer. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of this watch down below. Love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments, but that will do it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later. Bye.